That's a direct line to Nini having all the information about all of those things to be able to tell on all of those people. So consider the guy that was there to protect Sinaloa, the guy that got the United States government coming after the Sinaloan government. United States Attorney's Office, Southern District of New York, Governor of Sinaloa, and 9 other current and former Mexican officials charged with drug trafficking and weapons offenses. The defendants allegedly conspired with leaders of the Sinaloa cartel to import massive quantities of narcotics into the United States in exchange for political support and bribes. United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, and Administrator of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, Terrence Cole, announced today the unsealing of an indictment charging Rubén ROCHA MOYA.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
Enrique Inzunza Casares, Enrique Díaz Vega, Damaso Castro Saavedra, Marco Antonio Almanza Áviles, Alberto Jorge Contreras Núñez, a.k.a. Cholo, Geraldo Merida Sánchez, José Antonio Dionisio Hipólito, a.k.a. Tornado, Juan de Dios James Mendivil, and Juan Valenzuela Millán, a.k.a. Juanito. With drug trafficking, they got Juanito too, dog. God damn it. Juanito. With drug trafficking and related weapons offenses. Milan is additionally charged with offenses related to his participation in kidnappings of a DEA source and the source's relative that resulted in their deaths. The defendants are all current or former high-ranking government and law enforcement officials in the Mexican state of Sinaloa, including the current governor of Sinaloa, Rubén ROCHA MOYA, and are alleged to have partnered with the Sinaloa cartel to distribute massive quantities of narcotics to the United States. The case is assigned to the U.S. District Judge Catherine Polk Falla. El Rocha shit the bed. But he shit the bed a long time ago, and we knew it was going to happen. Something was going to happen. Some thought he was going to get smoked. Some thought he was going to go to jail. The Sinaloa cartel is not just trafficking deadly drugs. It is designated terrorist. It is a designated terrorist organization that relies on corruption and bribery to drive violence and profit, said DEA Administrator Terrence Cole. This indictment exposes a deliberate effort to undermine public institutions and put American lives at risk. The defendants allegedly used positions of trust to protect cartel operations, enabling a pipeline of deadly drugs into our country. No one is above the law. We are grateful for our U.S. and Mexican partners who choose integrity every day and stand with us to safeguard our communities. Together, we will continue to apply sustained pressure against the Sinaloa cartel and the networks that support it to protect the American people and save lives. According to the allegations contained in the indictment, other court filings, and statements made during court proceedings, the Sinaloa cartel is one of the most violent criminal organizations in the world and has transformed the Mexican state of Sinaloa into the geographic epicenter of the global narcotics trade. From its home base in Sinaloa, the cartel has worked with criminal elements around the world, cocaine producers and distributors in Colombia and Venezuela, drug traffickers and corrupt politicians throughout Central and South America, and precursor chemical manufacturers in China and elsewhere to country. The cartel has also carried out rampant violence, including thousands of murders throughout Mexico and elsewhere around the world, including the United States. To protect and grow this drug trafficking empire, the cartel has allegedly partnered with corrupt politicians and law enforcement officials, including the defendants, who have abused their authority in support of the cartel, exposed and subjected victims to threats and violence, and sold out their offices in exchange for massive bribes. Indeed, certain police officials in Mexico, including, as alleged, certain of the defendants, have directly participated in the cartel's violence and retribution, including by murdering enemies of the cartel and kidnapping individuals in Mexico suspected of cooperating with the U.S. law enforcement in this investigation. The defendants charged in this indictment are current and former government or law enforcement officials in Sinaloa. As alleged, each of the defendants has participated in a corrupt and violent drug trafficking conspiracy with the cartel to import massive amounts of fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine from Mexico into the United States. The defendants have played a variety of essential roles for the cartel. Amongst other things, the defendants have allegedly shielded cartel leaders from investigation, arrest, and prosecution, caused sensitive law enforcement and military information to be provided to members of the cartel. Is that not treason? That sounds like treason to me, no? Caused sensitive law enforcement and military information to be provided to members of the cartel and allied drug traffickers to assist the cartel's criminal activities. Directed members of state and local law enforcement agencies, such as the Sinaloa State Police, the Investigative Police for the Sinaloa State Attorney General's Office, and the Culiacán Municipal Police, to protect drug loads stored in and transiting through Mexico to the United States, and allowed brutal drug-related violence to be committed by members of the cartel without consequence. In exchange, the defendants have collected and received millions of dollars in drug money from the cartel. As alleged, the defendants have been most closely aligned with the faction of the cartel run by the sons of Joaquín Archibaldo Guzmán Loera, a.k.a. El Chapo, the cartel's notorious former leader, who are themselves known collectively as the Chapitos. The defendants have operated at all levels of government and law enforcement in Sinaloa and each abused their position of trust and authority to help facilitate the Chapitos' operation. For example, ROCHA MOYA was elected governor of Sinaloa, a position he has held since on or about November 1st, 2021, after the Chapitos allegedly helped him get elected by, among other things, kidnapping and intimidating his rivals.
Coño, man.
Crazy. In exchange, both before and after he became governor, ROCHA MOYA allegedly attended meetings with the Chapitos, at which he promised to protect the Chapitos as they distributed massive quantities of drugs to the United States. And as Governor ROCHA MOYA has allowed the Chapitos to operate with impunity in Sinaloa. Similarly, the other defendants have directly and repeatedly helped the Chapitos in exchange for massive drug-fueled bribes. For example, Saavedra, who is the Deputy Attorney General for the Sinaloa State Attorney General's Office, has received approximately $11,000 each month from the Chapitos, and in exchange has protected Chapitos members from arrest and informed the Chapitos of planned U.S.-backed law enforcement operations. $11,000 a month, one guy. Just one guy. Certain of the defendants are also alleged to have themselves directly participated in the cartel's campaign of violence and retribution. For example, Milan, a high-level commander in the Culiacán Municipal Police, allegedly received more than approximately $1,600 each month from the Chapitos. Papa, they had no respect for you. You was, you know what I mean? You had juice like that. You was worth a hot 16. For example, Milan, a high-level commander in the Culiacán Municipal Police, allegedly received more than approximately $1,600 each month from the Chapitos. In exchange, Milan gave the Chapitos unfettered access to the Culiacán Municipal Police and used officers from the police force to help the Chapitos maintain their control over Culiacán, including through arrests, kidnappings, and murder. In or about October 2023, Milan allegedly helped with the Chapitos kidnap a DEA confidential source and the source's relative, who the Chapitos then had tortured and killed, because the source was suspected of providing information to the government in connection with this investigation. The indictment is the latest in a series of indictments issued in this district since 2023, charging more than 30 members and associates of the cartel. including members of the leadership of the cartel, for their involvement in distributing massive quantities of narcotics into the United States and related crimes, which has resulted in a meaningful disruptive impact on the cartel's drug trafficking operations. I don't know about all that. Everybody's still getting high. A chart containing the charges and minimum and maximum penalties each defendant faces is below. All of the defendants are believed to currently reside in Mexico. The statutory minimum and maximum penalties are prescribed by Congress and provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentence of the defendants will be determined by a judge. All right, this is just for informational purposes.
Too much information and shit.
The charges contained in the indictment are merely accusations, and the defendants are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty.
No mommy's way.
Holy shit, Batman. Shout out Yayo. The Chapitos are telling real good, Shy. They got the governor indicted. If indeed, Yayo, they are guilty of everything everybody said they did. Them boys, the illest villains that ever lived, man. I want to know who gave them up. Could have been the Chapitos themselves. Could have been one of these guys that just got knocked down from the other cartel. Could be anybody that's in jail. Could be anybody, any enemy with information. Who knows? Let me tell you something. That's a big old bargaining chip, no? Who gave them up? And then here's another question. Who they going to give up? Están las cosas caliente. I think the war could be over. The U.S. is dismantling the government protection that the Chapitos had. If there's any sign of it, it's that right there. Ivan should just eject himself at this point. How do we know he hasn't? We don't know. Maybe he won't. I wonder if it's like El Mayo giving his information, or Joaquin or Video. They're all over there. Which indictment is pushing this information out to help indict these politicians? Nah, I think it could be all of them, man. Really. Everybody has a reason. And he's the linchpin, the missing piece to that, to Mayo getting snatched, you know? Mayo probably didn't like that he was complicit in that. I think it's the Chapitos that are talking. That's why they brought their whole family to the United States. The question is this. The United States has spoken. Your move, President Citabon. Does she protect him, or does she go marching into his office and snatch him up by his stupid face and send him over there? I think it's Mayo. If anybody got a grudge, it's Mayo. And that'll help his situation and fuck up the Chapitos. Whoever Rocha looked out for is already making a new deal. Rocha, yeah, as far as the political machine goes, he's damaged goods. They've already surpassed him in their mind. Revolution on him already started. Shout out HG. HG, he got a stupid face. You've seen his stupid face before. I don't think Mayo, he would have presented evidence. Do you guys think ROCHA MOYA will be arrested? The U.S. sent an extradition request, but the Mexican government is already saying that they did not provide evidence. Honestly, I'm surprised by this. We don't need no fucking evidence. You do what we tell you to do, or we'll send a blockade right now. No, that's what they on? The same thing that they said about the old man getting snatched, same thing they said about Metro. Oh, we don't know. I don't know nothing. They don't tell us nothing. We don't know nothing. They never tell us nothing. Abrazos, no balazos. Yeah, that's a crazy move by the U.S. They gotta have something crazy. I'm surprised that the U.S. government indicted a governor that is still in power. That's a big move, boy. Big move. I don't know what Citabon is gonna do because she has publicly supported him in the past. What has she been doing for the last couple of years? Answering to Trompito, as far as we could see, no? And telling the people bullshit. But they gotta have something, right? Wouldn't you think they gotta have something ironclad in order for them to take such a bold stance? Shout out JP. Claudia practically has no excuse to not go get Rocha's bitch ass and send him to the U.S. in order to save face, because she was with AMLO and Rocha co-signing Rocha's bitch ass and the clinic opening before taking presidential power. All that information in the article, how would Mayo know? I know they one cartel but two factions. Yeah, you're right. Here's the thing. That guy, Rocha, he's not just some guy. He's somebody that I would believe was very familiar with Rocha's position. I think him specifically. Same as Quinn, which is why he was coming to be at that meeting under the pretense that it would be Rocha and Quinn. So I feel like maybe there's a little leeway on that there. It's mass corruption in Mexico. And the U.S. just pointed a finger at it. U.S. said, hey, we want that guy right there. Hurry up. Defendant, Rubén ROCHA MOYA, governor of Sinaloa, age 76. Charges, narcotics importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices. Minimum and maximum penalties: life in prison, mandatory minimum of 40 years in prison. Enrique Inzunza Casares, Mexican senator, former Secretary General for Sinaloa. Coño, man. Yo, this is crazy. They're coming for the entire Sinaloan government. Same charges. Life in prison. Same max. Enrique Diaz Vega, former Secretary of Administration and Finance for Sinaloa. 50 years old. Same charges. Life in prison. Same sentence. Minimum of 40 years. A minimum. Okay? God damn. Marco Antonio Almanza Aviles, former head of the investigative police for the Sinaloa State's Attorney General's office. Were these the people that went and made up that bullshit video of quote-unquote Melesio Quinn being robbed and killed in a gas station that we found out was a lie and nobody ever went to jail for? Did any of these people have something to do with that? They showed us a bullshit video of somebody getting smoked in a gas station that didn't even get smoked in the gas station. And El Mayo came out through his lawyer, Frank Perez, the next day and said, no, that's not what happened. He was killed right there in the room with me when I was kidnapped. So boom, he too, same charges, life sentence, 40-year minimum. Alberto Jorge Contreras Núñez, Cholo, former head of the investigative police for the Sinaloa State's Attorney General's office. Yet another one. Same charges, same sentences. Geraldo Merida Sanchez, former secretary of public security for Sinaloa. Same charges, same sentence, 66 years old. Jose Antonio Dionisio Hipólito Tornado, former deputy. And guess what? Why these guys got nicknames? You got official positions, you police, you senators, you deputies, and you got nicknames and shit, man. Sit your goofy ass down, so mama's.
No, mommy's weak.
Former deputy director of the Sinaloa State Police, 55 years old, same crimes, same sentences. Juan de Dios Jaimes Mendivil, mayor of Culiacán.
No, mommy's. Chinga su madre, ya valió.
Holy shit. 41 years old, same charges, same sentences. And the baby of the bunch, hence the nickname Juanito, Juan Valenzuela Millán. Juanito, former high-level commander in the Culiacán Municipal Police. Narcotics importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, kidnapping resulting in death, conspiracy to commit kidnapping resulting in death.
Chinga su madre, ya valió.
Ya valió. City police, state police, mayor, senators, governor. That right there is a shutdown.
Bruh.
Shout out Tricks. I don't think Morena will go against their own. It would look really bad. Not worse than a fugitive governor in their circle. It would look really bad. They'd rather deny everything. You know how they are. It would be quite shameful if they admit fault. They will separate themselves from that man. Come on, this is politics, bro. He goes the way of the Pam Bandis and the Christy Gnomes of the world. They're going to separate themselves from Buddy and take it on the chin and say, hey, man, he did that shit on his own. We didn't even know. The indictment ain't going to go away. That pressure's still going to be on them, always. Those phone calls between her and Trompito going to change. U.S. charges Sinaloa Governor Rubén ROCHA MOYA and other Mexican politicians for drug trafficking. You know what? And the United States is probably saying, hey, man, we're pointing at them right now. Don't make us point at you. They ordered members of state and local law enforcement agencies such as the Sinaloa State Police, the Sinaloa State Attorney General's Office Investigation Police, and the Culiacán Municipal Police to protect drug shipments stored in Mexico and in transit to the United States, the indictment details. These officials also allegedly allowed cartel members to commit acts of violence with impunity. In exchange for their likely cooperation, they allegedly received thousands of dollars. The United States Department of Justice directly linked them to the Los Chapitos faction led by Iván Archibaldo Guzmán Salazar and Jesús Alfredo Guzmán, sons of Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán Loera. All right, this is the Millán crime right here. It says Millán is specifically, he is charged with kidnapping of a confidential DEA source, Alexis Alberto Metzaleón, and his 13-year-old nephew on October 23. Gunmen for El Nini attempted to kidnap him, instead taking his nephew and sister. Days later in Durango, the informant, his nephew, and 6 others were found dead after being tortured and killed. The following month, El Nini was arrested and eventually extradited to the United States. Do you guys want to hear his response? I categorically and absolutely reject the accusations made against me by the Southern District of New York Federal Prosecutor's Office, as they lack any truth or foundation whatsoever, and this will be demonstrated with full force at the appropriate time. This attack is not solely against my person, but against the movement of the Fourth Transformation, its emblematic leadership, and the Mexican women and men who represent that cause. It is part of a perverse strategy to violate the constitutional order, specifically the national sovereignty advocated by Article 40 of the Political Constitution of the United Mexican States, which our movement defends as an invariable and non-negotiable principle. Oh, we're going to talk principles now? No, mommy's wait. There's principalities in this shit, man. To the Sinaloa people of Sinaloa, I say that with the courage and dignity that characterizes us, we will demonstrate the lack of foundation for this slander. Upper echelon, did you vote? Who's telling on these politicians? This was the governor, this was the mayor, this was the senator, this was the municipal police, this was the state police. Who told on these guys? Remember, Nini is the one who took credit for the Culiacanazo. I'm giving you real information. And Nini had a lot of time to sit around and write in a little notebook. Gave up the whole operation, huh? The mayor got it, municipal police, the state police, the governor, the senator. Coño. They got the fucking chef, the cleaning lady, the nanny. And Nini snitching on the nanny is crazy. Go back to the first indictment of El Nini and the killing of the informants. And now you're getting the story of who was involved. You heard it here first. Nestor Isidro Perez Salas, a major Mexican cartel member known as El Nini, and one of America's most wanted criminals for his suspected involvement in the fentanyl trade, has been extradited to the U.S. Perez Salas was one of the Sinaloa cartel's lead sicarios or assassins. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, in February 2021, he was charged in the U.S. with witness retaliation, which we saw in the Milan indictment, the youngest guy, Juanito, in the ROCHA MOYA indictment, witness retaliation, machine gun and destructive device possession, and conspiracy to traffic in cocaine and meth. Boom. Shout out Tere. 8 young men tortured and murdered in Tamazula, Durango. This is from October 29, 2023. This is the same young man we just saw in the other story. Rio 12 stated that 8 young men were tortured and murdered in Tamazula, Durango. One of the victims fit the physical characteristics of Jesus Alberto, who was 13 years old. So basically, Nini snitching on his accomplices from this shit. Who was 13 years old. Jesus Alberto, nephew of the main target, and Allison were kidnapped after a failed attempt to deprive an individual on October 24, 2023 of his freedom in the northwest sector. It was worth noting that the individual who was the main objective of the kidnapping turned himself to the armed group, so the wife Allison was released. Located without life, young people who were deprived of their liberty in Culiacán, Sinaloa. Here's the 13-year-old, Jesus Alberto Chaidez Beltrán, Alex Alberto Metzaleón, Germán Alexis Beltrán Guterres. It was confirmed that 5 of the 6 young men who were deprived of their freedom in Culiacán, Sinaloa, were found dead in Durango. The bodies of the young men were found in the streets of Tamazula, who informed the competent authorities. The bodies were handcuffed and with visible signs of torture. Among the deceased, there are minors. Shout out Tere. I have a piece of paperwork here. This is the 2023 sealed superseding indictment. This is for Nini. We got all the regular drug shit right here. We go to violation number 5. In or about October 2023, Nini engaged in working in the furtherance of continuing criminal enterprise, and while engaged in one or more offenses punishable under Title 21, namely the crime charges in counts 2 and 3 of this superseding indictment, intentionally and knowingly killed and counseled, commanded, induced, procured, and caused the intentional killing of one or more persons, namely Alexander Metza Leon, Germán Alexis Beltran Gutierrez, Jesus Alberto Chaidez Beltran, which is the 13-year-old, Alberto León Mendoza, Joel Alejandro León Valenzuela, Alexis Alberto Metza León, Abel Ruiz Beltran, and Kevin Ali Sarmiento Zavala, and such killing did result and did aid and abet the same in violation of Title 21. So now, to tie all this shit together, Milan gave the Chapitos unfettered access to the Culiacán Municipal Police and used officers from the police force to help the Chapitos maintain their control over Culiacán, including through arrests, kidnappings, and murder. In or about October 2023, Milan allegedly helped the Chapitos kidnap a DEA confidential source and source's relative, who the Chapito then had tortured and killed, because the source was suspected of providing information to the government in connection with the investigation. Milan got the extra charges down here, along with the narcotics, along with the machine guns, along with the conspiracy. He got kidnapping resulting in death. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping resulting in death. Right? Just to be thorough, they again added at the top of that indictment, Milan is additionally charged with offenses related to his participation in kidnappings of a DEA source and the source's relative that resulted in their death. And here's the story. And we went through it already, but we didn't understand the context. I didn't understand the context. Specifically, he is charged with the kidnapping of confidential DEA source Alexis Alberto Metzaleon and his 13-year-old nephew in October 2023. Gunman for Nini attempted to kidnap him, instead taking his nephew and sister. Days later in Durango, the informant, his nephew, and 6 others were found dead after being tortured and killed. The following month, Nini was arrested and eventually extradited to the United States of America. So whoever told on all of these politicians from Sinaloa knows the ins and outs of this kidnapping because he ordered it. That all lines up with Nini being the one telling the tales about El Rocha.
Oye, ¿y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?
Hey, bro, honest, what a piece of shit. He killed an informant and a young boy for snitching, and he goes and tells himself. That's a direct line to Nini having all the information about all of those things to be able to tell on all of those people. So consider the guy that was there to protect Sinaloa, the guy that got the United States government coming after the Sinaloan government. Shout out Upper Echelon for enlightening us with that. With the string to go pull just to go see for ourselves. Shit looks like it connects to me. They about to bring out the firing squad for Nini. They recently brought that back. Are they though? He just gave their ass a governor, a mayor, senator, municipal police chief, a state police chief, some administrators, a janitor, a dog walker, 2 paleteros. This is legit corresponding cases right here. These cases are connected to this indictment. This case in specific is connected to this indictment. Shout out there, exactly what I meant when I said it wasn't Mayo. We've been asking this question since Nini got locked up. Who's going to be the first one? He told on, we didn't have a thread to pull to see the corresponding information, the corroborating information between the 2 cases for those other people that we thought maybe he could have spoke on. But again, there's no lack of telling. Everybody's out there telling. Said he was going to go down for corruption. Do you remember all those cameras showing surveillance? How are you in office in a town like Sinaloa not being corrupt? The cartel is just a snake eating its own ass. Like Upper Echelon said, the guy has these people tortured and killed. And he goes to prison and he indicts everybody that had anything to do with it. He did it because he thought they were snitching, and he just indicted everybody that was in on it with him. When it makes sense, it makes sense. Show me another case that's connected to this case like that. The question is, can Mexico deny his extradition? We shall see. That is the $1 million question. If he's not arrested, isn't he technically a fugitive already? He's a fugitive of the United States right now. That's what I would say. And I also say he's treasonous. If you're giving military information to people and you're in a position of government, is that not treason? Am I wrong here? But he's definitely a fugitive of the United States government right now, today.
¿Y el Rocha? ¿Y el Rocha? Bueno, ¿y el Rocha?